Good morning, everyone. Jane Monreal with you here at 9 a.m. It is Wednesday morning, and you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. For the next couple of hours, we're going to bring you the news as it affects you in real time as it comes into the newsroom. Moments ago, as this is the 6th year since a tragic shooting occurred on the campus of UNC Charlotte, the gunman shot 6 people, 2 of them died, and there was a wreath-laying ceremony earlier today. Just actually a half an hour ago, our Richard Devane was there. We want to take a look right now at what played out as they laid the wreaths, observing the passing of 2 victims there 6 years ago. Such a tragic scene, and it occurred at a time where, this was the last day of school. And a lot of people remember this. So as we remember and commemorate the passing of the victims, a somber scene here early this morning on the campus of UNC Charlotte. And Carlene, my producer here, you were also working in the newsroom.
I was in the newsroom. I had just started a couple months before this. This was my first big news story here in Charlotte. I just remember kind of the panic and the chaos, kind of like on big news days. We're trying to find any information, and it weighed heavy on all of us that day.
Yeah. I mean, so 6 years later, as you know, when you look at this, it brings you back, doesn't it?
It does. It's such a tight-knit community, the 49ers are,
right,
too. So,
yeah,
it's one of those, it's the biggest university in our area. So it's just
so sad.
It just takes you back. It's kind of like, I can't believe it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Because it feels like yesterday, but it also feels like forever ago. It's one of those things where it was all happening so fast and so quick that we were just trying to get any information, and
real tough. I mean,
real tough.
As a community member and then working and covering it too.
I was a brand new community member too, so it's just like, you're just getting your bearings here, and then this happens, and you see it did, all around the city, after that was such a tight knit. Everybody just kind of supported each other and understood each other, and
at
we
least
all
that
kind of came together as a city.
Let's listen in here. The drums are kind of drowning us out of the way. And again, university honoring the memory of those impacted with this wreath-laying ceremony at the Kennedy building where the shooting took place. 2 students were killed, 4 others hurt, and like Carlene was saying, as a community, the Charlotte area came together and shared in the loss of these folks there on the last day of school. This area is the Constellation Garden. They made a special area to set up a tribute and a permanent campus memorial honoring those two students who lost their lives. We're just going to let this play out a little bit.
Family members. Yes, those are family members. Yes, but those are family members. Please.
Okay, folks, it looks like we lost that picture there, but it was a beautiful scene. That ceremony expected to draw students, faculty, and family members. We saw some people walking up to the wreaths. University leaders say the absence of speeches is intentional and wanting folks to just focus on the healing and the unity of everybody there. But Carlene, again, you were saying that it was quite a day for everybody involved.
And two, just because again, it's like those big news days where you're trying to get any morsel of information. You know something big has happened.
Yeah.
We saw the Niner alerts. Brad Panovich, chief meteorologist, also teaches part-time at UNC Charlotte, so he was getting the alerts and kind of giving us updates. But I mean, you know,
yeah,
it was just a rush of kind of anxiety,
and
knowing that these are
students,
kids.
yeah.
These are kids. These are students.
Young
know?
adults,
Young
the last
adults,
day of class. And
right. It was, I mean, hours before they were done for the semester.
yeah, I mean, it's important that we do remember, too.
Yeah.
So that ceremony brought to us from our crew. Richard Devane has been covering the newscast or that story for the morning newscast and just bringing that ceremony to us here from the campus Kennedy building as it is 6 years again since that tragic shooting on the campus of UNC Charlotte. And we continue to honor the memory of those impacted. We also honor the memory of 4 officers who were killed in a deadly ambush 1 year ago yesterday. This happened April 29th, 2024. One of them was Thomas Weeks, and there was a special ceremony for him yesterday at the federal courthouse in Uptown. His wife spoke briefly. They did actually have a very private ceremony where there were loved ones close to them that were speaking and giving a tribute to Thomas Weeks. He was one of the officers who passed. But then later on, a lot of people, including media, were invited to the outdoor ceremony, and it was a memorial that was revealed right outside the federal courthouse. His wife also spoke briefly. Let's take a look at that here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
So I'm just going to read to you what's on the monument for those of you who are not close to it, and then you can come by and see it after. So Tommy Weeks Jr., date of birth September 27th, 1975. His end of watch, April 29th, 2024. Tommy served in the U.S. Custom and Border Protection for 8 years before joining the U.S. Marshal Service in the District of Columbia from June 2011 till transferring to the Western District of North Carolina in 2014. While serving in the Western District of North Carolina, Tommy supported the Carolina Regional's Fugitive Task Force with distinction, receiving numerous special acts and performance awards. On April 29, 2024, Tommy tragically lost his life while serving on this task force. A life of courage, dedication, and unwavering commitment to his community and the legacy that Tommy has left behind. 3 other officers lost their lives that day. U.S. Marshal Task Force Officer William Auden Elliott and Samuel Sam Peloche, both of the North Carolina Department of Adult Correction, and Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Officer Joshua Iyer. The lives touched are forever changed, and those you protected are grateful for your service. In memories of our fallen brother. So everyone, please feel free to come by, but now we're going to go tell more stories on Tommy inside and make some more laughs and laughter. So thank you for being here.
Some people gathering around the dedicated and newly revealed plaque in dedication and memorial to Thomas Weeks. His stepdaughter also spoke to our Judisha Woodard about the impact he made, not only as a family man, but just as a community member to everybody. Let's listen to that interview here right now.
Okay, and I remember speaking with your mom yesterday on the phone. She was just talking about it's been a lot, right, over the past couple of weeks. Talk to me about where you are right now mentally.
Mentally, it's hard.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I broke down. I was crying. I was just like, sometimes you don't even think about it. When I talk about it, I'm smiling. When I'm talking about it, I don't really think about it. But then there's sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, oh, like this happened, and he really is truly gone. I always think that, oh, he's just gonna come walking through the door like normal, gonna take me to Dunkin' like he used to, would always take me to Dunkin' or Starbucks. He's the sweetest guy, but it's hard sometimes thinking, oh, he's not there anymore.
Yeah, and why is it so important for events like this? It brought out a lot of crowds today. Talk to me a little bit about just being wrapped in love by your community.
I think it's important because everybody needs the people, and that's really also showing awareness to really show that people are really putting their lives out there to help our community to come together and be better, and also just make it all safe.
I know you talked about, pain behind the smile. What keeps you going? What keeps a smile on your face during such hard times?
Tommy. He was such a good guy, and my parents were divorced, and it was hard for my mom for a while. It was just me and my mom for a very long time, because my brother, he'd go between the houses, but he was at baseball a lot, so it was really my mom most of the time, me and my mom, and she did so much stuff by herself that when Tommy came, he helped her out so much. It was amazing. I'm so thankful for him. Every single day, even though he's not here, he helped us out so much, and he treated me like I was one of his own.
In seeing the monument today, talk to me a little bit about what went through your mind, just looking at his photo and so many people wanted to take a picture, and what were you thinking?
Just happiness. Just that, so happy that this many people came together in honor of him, and also in honor of all 4 of those that did put their life on the line that day.
Okay. And one of my last questions, you talked about your mom trying to digest everything, obviously you being there for her. How has that been for you? How old are you?
I am 16 years old, but when it happened, I was 15 years old. I was only a freshman in high school, and it was a lot. It was a day after a volleyball tournament. I was still trying to go to volleyball, and also a few weeks later, me and my mom were about to go to Atlanta. She couldn't go with me anymore. It was a lot, and it was a lot to digest, but it was a process, but we had each other's back.
How was it being 15 years old, having to step into the big shoes and, be as close to your mom and help your mom digest this that you guys both were obviously shocked about?
It was a lot, but I'd been there for her in the years where she was by herself, so not saying it was easy, but I've been there before, but it was a lot harder this time though.
Thomas Week's stepdaughter talking to our Tradisha Woodard about the loss of her stepfather. Sounds like a great man, and a beautiful conversation that she shared with us. I want to go right now live to the Emergency Management and Disaster Recovery meeting. That is North Carolina General Assembly meeting at 9 o'clock this morning. Their meeting is now underway, talking about several bills covering anywhere from firefighters to highway patrol when it comes to emergency management. Let's go to that here. Live at Impact News on WCNC Plus.
No, it's regular.
I'm sorry, this is a PCS. I'm sorry. That isn't?
Okay. All right, well, I'd like to make a motion favorable to the bill with a referral to rules.
You've heard the motion put before you. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're going to move to House Bill 97. Representative Scott.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This is a bill that makes, I think, clear what the General Assembly wanted to do last year when they added intestinal cancer to the list of cancers for firefighters, and it now adds gastric cancer onto. You see, we have some of our great firefighters who are here. One not so great, my chief is here. I was told to say that by the man sitting next to him, but my chief is here in support of his as well. But, Mr. Chair, I do believe that there is a member who would like to speak to this bill as well, but then afterwards I'll answer any questions.
There's one thing we need to back up for just a moment and see. This is a PCS. Apparently, the list I have has everything listed as House bill. It doesn't have anything listed PCS. So the PCS is properly before you without objection. Does anyone object? Okay. Now, Representative Clampett, I believe you wanted to make a comment on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Being masked this
Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal with you here at just about 9:15. It is a live meeting with North Carolina General Assembly leaders discussing emergency management, weighing and discussing several bills. We want to move away from this for a moment as the Karen Reed trial is underway. A key witness beginning to take the stand yesterday, Jennifer McCabe. She is one of the friends who said how many people were there at the scene at the time in 2022 when O'Keefe, Reed's boyfriend, was found killed. Let's go to this right now. This is Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
That is the side of Mr. O'Keefe's house, the two garage doors.
Is there any indication of surveillance?
Is this a Ring camera right here? Looks.
Is that what John O'Keefe's side of his house looks like?
Yes.
I want to show you Exhibit 10. You recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the driveway at John O'Keefe's.
You see a car to the left?
Yes.
Do you know whose car that is?
Yes, that's Miss Reed's.
Is that told you about directions to Fairview Road?
Yes.
And you also shared that you had a phone conversation offering directions?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell John that the house at Fairview was near Bella's mom's house?
Objection. Sustained as to form, Mr. Brennan.
Okay. What did you tell John as far as directions to Fairview? How did you mark it for him?
I told him to go by, past Bella's house, Bella's Street, and then to follow it down to the end.
I'd like to move to introduce a copy of that 911 call.
Okay. Do you have something physically to... Thank you.
Ms. McLaughlin does.
Thank you.
With,
45. Thank you.
with the court's permission, I'd like to play Exhibit 45.
Yes.
No, this is for what was emergency.
Yes, I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. The baby passed out in the snow.
You can't hold up, but you can't say so. You can't get to know, okay?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
Yes, the town's address, dead line.
I just keep going, like, please, I got area in 60, okay?
I'm address dead line, address it,
Okay. I know. Where's the process? I don't keep going to Karen.
911, what's your emergency?
I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
In the snow, 34?
Yes, 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up behind him.
Okay, 34 Fairview?
34 Fairview, Canton, Mass, yes.
911, that's under order, where's your emergency?
I don't know.
Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Houston?
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay, what else?
He's got to get here, okay?
Okay, what's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
Okay. And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
That's his girlfriend. His name is John Keith.
Okay, how old is he?
John is 46 years old.
46, how long has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He got out of the car and it could have been a couple of hours. Is he, Terry? Is he? I don't know if he's breathing. There are two women trying to into his body and they're hysterical.
Okay, can you just try to ask him? I know it's tough, but we already have the fire department going. They just got to know.
Okay. Is he breathing, you guys? It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
Yes, can you guys do CPR? No, I guess he's gone.
Okay, they don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we have the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you, and if anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
I'm right up front. I know, I'm on the phone with the Andrews. I know, honey, I know. Carrie, you gotta get off of me. Carrie, you gotta get off of him.
You know if there's any alcohol or drugs involved?
He has been out.
They've been out drinking?
Yes, I'm talking hours about maybe, and I think he's ever how he's been in the snow.
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe in his head out?
Yes, possibly. There seems to be bleeding in the face.
Okay, bleeding from the face. All right.
Yes.
And how big the pool of blood is, if there is any?
Something's coming out the nose, and one of the women is doing CPR.
Okay, one of them is doing CPR?
Yes, they're both working on him.
All right, if you want CPR, and just give us a call back if you become responsive, right? But we're on the way.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McCabe, describe your mental state when you were speaking to 911.
I guess the best way to describe it was I was in shock. My heart was racing. I was trying to be as helpful as I could and get the information to, the most important information out as quick as I could to the 911 operators. But also the scene there with Karen and Kerry was a bit chaotic between the two of them. So I was just trying my best to be as calm as I could, to get help there as fast as I could, and to answer their questions the best that I could.
Before you told the 911 operator John O'Keefe's name and his age, you said there's a man in the snow. Do you know why you chose those words?
I think I just wanted to get out the most specific details. So a man in the snow versus, John O'Keefe and into a story. I think I just was get the details to them as fast as possible, to get help there to him as fast as possible.
When you told the 911 operator that your friend John O'Keefe was the person lying in the snow, how did you know his age?
We used to joke because he was a couple months older than me. So I would, say, oh, well, you're older than me. It was a silly little thing between friends.
When you called the 911 operator, had Kerry and the defendant already been around or near John?
Yes.
Do you know if they had begun trying CPR before you called 911?
I'm not sure if they had, because Karen had straddled him and was lifted her shirt, was warming him up, and then Kerry was yelling at her to get off. And I think when Kerry got the blankets and was trying to put him under John, I think as she started to move him and wipe him, blood started to come out. And then Karen was afraid that he was going to choke on his blood and wanted to move him on his side, but then Kerry was yelling at her, we can't move him. And this was kind of all going on while I was talking to 911.
You described what you saw, and you said at some point he was bleeding from the face area. Was that before or after he was moved?
After.
Before he was moved, did you see any active bleeding?
No.
After you called 911.
Hi, everyone. We're going to take you away from the Karen Reed retrial. Jennifer McCabe taking the witness stand this morning right now because we do have a special guest. I want to go to her as we have this very tight window with her, but we are talking about something that's critical for the Carolinas, and that is wildfire season, wildfire preparedness. It is a situation we need to talk about and prepare for, as we are, as we saw last month, things are heating up in South Carolina as well as North Carolina through the spring and again in the fall. So I want to bring in right now Michelle Steinberg, who is with the Wildfire Division of National Fire Protection Association. Michelle, thanks for joining us this morning as Community Preparedness Day is coming up on May 3rd, and how we can prepare for the season.
This year's Wildfire Community Preparedness Day, just a great way to get people activated and doing things to make themselves safer.
Why was the day established, and what can we do, the little things that we can do right now?
Right. So the day was established to give people an opportunity. We actually thought about it as a community service day for youth, but it turned out that all the grown-ups wanted to be involved as well. It's just a great way to start teaching people about wildfire risk and how they can minimize that where they live, for their families, for their neighbors. And we encourage people to work on projects that are the outside of homes, maybe helping a senior neighbor or somebody else who needs the help to clear out things around their property that could be fuel for a wildfire.
And what can you say about the Carolinas being in some of these high-risk areas? We've seen fires from the West Coast in California that seem to be taking all the headlines. But of course, here in the Carolinas, in the Western North Carolina, certainly with those mountain areas, a lot of forestry there.
Right. So North Carolina is so interesting that it has many different sort of environments from the coast out to the mountains that all have their own sort of fire patterns. And when we have hot, dry, windy days, if we've had extended drought, those are the times that we want people to be hyper aware of the risk and needing to basically have safety measures ready if you need to evacuate. But anytime all year round are the times that you can get ready before there's wildfire or smoke in the air. And that's why we like to have these rallying points like Wildfire Community Preparedness Day to help people take that time to learn and take action.
I'm looking at some of the buzzwords here: home ignition zone, as well as zone zero. Can you explain those terms to us?
Sure. So generally, home ignition zone means that this is an area that's your home and everything around it within just about 100 feet. That's where you have the opportunity to modify things to prevent the home from igniting in the first place, which means it can't burn and transmit fire to neighboring property. So those include cleaning out gutters, making sure you don't have any openings that are unscreened where embers could get in, making sure things under your decks or porches are cleaned out. Anywhere that you're getting leaf litter, debris blowing in, that's where embers can go and ignite. And then you mentioned zone zero. As research and our experience has gotten more refined about what is it that we can do, what are the most important things that we can do to reduce risk, 0 to 5 feet. So if you think about taking a measuring tape and measuring from your foundation wall out, just 5 feet is really the critical area. We don't want anything that can burn there because we don't want flames touching the home. We don't want it touching the siding, getting up under the eaves and vents. So anything that can burn should be removed from that area. For example, flammable mulch. You can definitely have mulch on the property, but just placing it in areas where it's not going to carry fire right to the home is a really good practice.
I'd mentioned the fires in Southern California that happened. Some homes surviving, some others destroyed. What factors are typically determining which buildings and structures would survive a wildfire?
Right. So I actually had the privilege to visit a few weeks after the fire had started in California and saw homes that did survive. And they absolutely were folks that put those recommendations into practice at their home ignition zone. So they had good roofs, they had done the work to clear out that 5 foot or that zone zero area, worked with the local firefighters and professionals to understand their risk and do the things around their property well ahead of time. So those homes largely survived without firefighter intervention, the ones that I was able to see.
Yeah, that's encouraging to hear that those little things that we can think of before would help us out in the long run and if a situation were to occur. And finally, what could people do? They don't know where to start. What would be a first step, Michelle?
Great. Well, I think definitely visit wildfireprepday.org to get lots of information about projects and the things that you can do. But definitely just start by walking around your home and taking a look at where those like I said, leaves or pine needles are piling up already. Think about if an ember were to land there, it could ignite. And sort of make yourself a list about the things that you could start to take care of right away. And some of these are very simple. So we really want people to take those first simple baby steps to getting safer.
All right. Michelle Steinberg, thank you so much. As we've discussed, Wildfire Preparation Day is coming up May 3rd. We'll put more information on our website as well. And it's not just for the western part of the country. It is certainly important right here in the Carolinas. Michelle Steinberg, thank you so much this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Take care. All right. We are now leveled up there in wildfire preparedness. Good news there. Want to take you back out to Karen Reed with Jennifer McCabe. She is still on the witness stand in the Karen Reed retrial. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Temperatures, I lose the feeling and sensation in my fingers, which obviously made the Googling very hard for me to do because of my, motor skills.
So when you were outside of the car with the defendant and she had asked you to do a search regarding hypothermia, did you try to do that?
Yes, I did.
Do you know the exact time from your memory? Not from reading or learning, but from your memory. Do you remember the exact time you did that?
No.
Was it after the police came that morning?
Yes.
Had you ever attempted to search about hypothermia any time before that moment, that morning?
No.
Or that day?
No.
That week?
No.
Was this the first time that morning after the defendant asked you to search that you searched that phrase?
Yes, it was.
And did you complete your search and get a result?
So I don't know what came up, because I think as I entered it, I think I misspelled things. And so then I think I tried a second search. And again, I don't think I even paid attention to what came up, because we were already on to the next thing. Karen was already moving and screaming about, the next thing to Kerry. Are they working on him? Is he dead?
Did the defendant move somewhere from the point when she first asked you to try to Google about hypothermia to something else?
She was next to me, and then I think she took off. Like, she kept kind of running off.
And what did you do?
I believe as they were I think I stood there, I believe as they were putting John into the ambulance, I went back kind of to the original spot where we had been talking to the police. And at that point, a new officer might have come, because I remember talking to multiple officers there.
At some point, did you go back towards the area of Ms. Roberts' car?
Yes, that's where I'm referring to, sorry.
At some point, were you with the defendant when she spoke to an officer and a first responder?
Yes.
Do you remember if the first responder was a man or a woman?
I remember there was a woman right next to us, yes.
Do you remember if that was before or after the defendant asked you to search about hypothermia?
I'd be guessing if I then don't.
Don't guess.
Mm-hmm.
When the defendant was speaking to the first responder, the woman, were you near?
Yes.
Did you hear or do you remember the defendant saying anything to the first responder?
Yes.
What did she say?
She told the first responder, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
When she told the first responder, I hit him, how did you react?
I was startled, kind of like, what are you saying? What are you talking about?
Did you say anything to the defendant?
I think after the second or third time she was saying it, I was like, Karen, like, what are you saying?
Why were you trying to interrupt her?
Because I thought she was just talking crazy, and I'm saying, why is she saying she hit him?
Were you trying to look out for her?
Yeah.
Sustained. I'll strike it. You can ask it differently.
What was your motivation for trying to interrupt the defendant making the statements to the first responder?
Karen was hysterical, irrational, kind of.
I'll move on.
Oh, okay, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Taking a little bit of a sidebar here at the Karen Reed retrial. Jennifer McCabe is one of the key witnesses taking the stand. She started yesterday afternoon, and she was one of the friends, a friend of John O'Keefe, and she was with Reed when she found O'Keefe's body in the snow. A retrial that was a hung jury last year, and so that is taking place right now. Today, day 7 of the Karen Reed retrial. Want to get to some breaking news right now. This is a live picture of a fire that is happening in Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma. It looks like fire crews are battling this fire right now. We are trying to gather some information, but you could see that it is completely in flames, and it is just raging there in southeast Oklahoma City, happening right now. Plenty of fire crews on scene, and it looks like lot of black and dark gray smoke. So you know what that means. It is in the early stages of burning. That roof is completely torched and gone.
Very nice home.
It is a gorgeous home. Right now, unclear what caused the fire, but we are hearing that one person may have been taken to a nearby hospital. So as you look at this live picture, that feed.
It's frozen right now, but just
Okay.
these NBC feeds have been chugging a little bit, folks. So
Okay.
look, I thank you for your patience, but we are trying to get them to not chug.
Okay, that's good to hear. That is on the Oklahoma City side.
Yes.
But we will continue to get more information there. So as we go back and forth with some of these live pictures, is how we do it here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We get the feed, we bring it to you just sort of raw and unedited. We will go back to Jennifer McCabe, who is on the witness stand at the Karen Reed retrial out of Dedham, Massachusetts. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Woman inside the house before you went in.
No.
Take us through walking through the front door. What happens?
So I went in the front door. I opened the door. I walked up the stairs into their hallway, and then I think I knocked on their door.
Bedroom door?
Their bedroom door. And then I opened the door. I went in, and I walked over to the bed, and I was like, Brian, Nicole, because I was in a position where I felt like the world was going on around me, so much was happening, but I also was aware that I was just about to wake up two people that are sound asleep, and they're going to see me standing over their bed and be startled, wondering, what am I doing here?
So what happens?
So it took a minute or two, and then Brian woke up, and he immediately was like startled and was like, Jennifer, what's going on? What are you doing? And then I believe I tried the best I could to say what was going on. I think I said, we found John.
You don't need to describe
Okay.
again, but I want to know their reaction and your interaction with your sister and Brian Albert.
They woke up startled and confused.
Did you have a conversation with them?
Yes.
How long was that conversation?
Brief. They got up, got dressed. I spoke to them.
And where did you go and where did they go?
Then all three of us went down the stairs.
The upstairs to the downstairs?
Upstairs to downstairs,
And
yes.
upstairs is the second level, is downstairs the first level?
Yes.
As you come down the stairs, can you see the front door?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the house at that point?
I saw Officer Lank.
In the house?
Yes.
Do you know if he had been invited in?
I have no idea.
When you came down the stairs and saw Officer Lank, where was your sister and Brian Albert?
They were walking with me down the stairs.
And did you see whether or not the officer spoke with your sister and your brother?
He did.
Brother-in-law? I'm sorry.
He did, yes.
Were you there during that conversation?
No.
How long was that conversation, do you know?
Not sure.
Where did you go when the officer was speaking to your sister and your brother-in-law inside their home?
I was standing at the front doorway, and then my husband, Matt, had just arrived.
What happened next?
I started talking to Matt, and almost immediately Officer Lang came, got Matt, and asked if he could talk to him outside.
Okay. At this point, I want to go back and show you some video. Have you seen video in this case before?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the court's permission to display Exhibit 4, and I would like to walk through some of the video.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you kindly put on Exhibit 4. I'd like to start at 6:09:57. Ms. Gilman, if you can take us to the arrival at Fairview. Could you stop there, please? Ms. McCabe, do you recognize this scene?
Yes.
Is that morning?
Yes.
The car directly in front of this dash cam, do you know whose vehicle that is?
Kerry Roberts.
On the left, we see somebody with a blue parka or jacket. Do you know who that is?
I believe that's me.
Can you continue to play, please? Can you stop there, please? Does that fairly depict your first interaction with law enforcement?
Yes.
Do you see the flagpole in that video?
Yes.
And is that the area where you found John?
Yes.
I'd like to move forward in the video. If we can move forward to 6:14:45, please. Could you stop there? Can you identify people on that video from right to left, if you can?
I don't know the officer. That's myself. I believe behind me, that's Miss Reed.
And this is about, well, let me get the time correctly. 6:14:47. And do you know where John is at this point?
Are they lifting him to the left?
Okay. Could you continue, please, Ms. Gilman? Could you stop there? The person all the way to the left near the flagpole. Do you know who that is?
I believe Kerry Roberts.
And is that the area where John was found?
Yes.
And that's at 6:15 a.m.? If you don't know, that's okay. Do you know what Ms. Roberts was doing at 6:15 a.m.?
My guess is
I don't want you to guess. Just if you
I don't know.
Okay. Now, you're over to the right. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Continue, please. Is that Kerry on the left?
Yes.
Stop, please. On the right, do you see yourself?
Yes.
And which person are you?
I'm the one next to the one with the fluorescent yellow.
Is your back to us?
Yes.
To the right in yellow. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Continue, please. Continue. Stop, please. Do you see the defendant move from the right to the left?
Yes.
Do you see the yellow jacket?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not that's the woman first responder?
I believe so, yes.
Do you know why the officer moved the defendant over from right to left?
I don't.
Okay, continue, please. Stop. At that part, is there a conversation between the defendant and the first responder?
Yes.
Are you listening?
Yes.
Continue. Stop. Do you see the officer that was with you in that group?
Yes.
Do you see him now turned away from the group speaking to somebody else?
I do.
Continue, please. Thank you. If you could move ahead to 619, please. Is that you, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Is that Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Stop for a moment. Do you know at which point you went to the officer's car and sat in the back with Ms. Reed?
I believe it's right after this.
Can you continue, please? Is that Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Okay. Stop, please. Was it before or after that moment that you sat with the defendant and Ms. Roberts stood outside the car and you prayed?
I'm not exactly sure from that video.
That's fine. If we could move forward to 6:23:40, please. At this time, are you still with the defendant behind this car in some spot?
Yes, I am.
Is it during this time, 6:23 and 6:24, you tried to make those searches at the defendant's request?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you can move forward to 6:26:15. Pause, please. Ms. McCabe, do you see anybody returning to Ms. Roberts' car in that area?
Yes.
And who did you see?
I saw myself, and I'm standing outside of the car speaking to Officer Lank. I saw Kerry go up and near her car. I'm not sure if she went into it, and I saw someone walk Miss Reed into the car.
Is it around this time you have a conversation with Mr. Lank?
Yes.
And what does he tell you again around this time?
He's, at this point, I think, asking me questions about what had happened, and then soon after, he asks me to go into my sister's house.
Ms. Gilman, if you can fast forward to 6:34:15, please. Stop, please. You described that the house had no lights on. Is that a fair depiction of,
yes.
of the view?
Yes.
Do you see a figure walking up the driveway?
Not on this pause clip, but I did see it, yes.
Let's play it and see if you can identify.
Yes, I can see myself walking up.
Where are you now?
I'm walking up the path to go up to the stairs into the house.
And this is at the request of Officer Lank?
Yes.
And you described first you went in and woke up your sister and brother-in-law?
Yes.
Could we move forward to 6:39, please? Stop. And do you see something happen with the house at that point?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens?
Light went on.
I'll note it's 6:39:08. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. After first responders took John and you had gone in your sister's house, what did you do next?
Next, after Officer Lank spoke to my husband, Kerry Roberts, her and I had a conversation. She was going to go pick up John's parents in Braintree. At first, I had told her I would go with her, but then Officer Lank said that I needed to, one of us had to stay at Fairview to speak to the, I believe it was the state troopers that would be coming.
Did you stay at Fairview?
I did, yes.
What was your mental state at that point?
Again, I was in shock. The best way I can describe it is the feeling of I'm present and everything's going on around me, and I'm just trying to process and make sense of everything.
Did you speak to your sister about what happened?
Yes.
Did you speak to your brother-in-law about what happened?
Yes.
And were they giving you any comfort or support?
Yes, they were being very comforting and supportive.
As you were waiting at Fairview, did anybody else come to the house?
Well, my husband, Matt, had arrived. A little while later, Julie Albert had arrived. She was dropping something off, and then Brian Sr. called her in.
Is Julie Albert the wife of Chris Albert?
Yes, she is.
And Brian Albert and Chris Albert are brothers?
Correct.
When she arrived, did you talk to her?
Yes.
Were you in a group?
Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal coming up on 10 o'clock as we are just trying to get that feed squared away. It is not on our end, by the way, but we will, in the meantime, divert from there, talk about Charlotte City's 2040 plan. Our Ben Thompson and Lisa Washington talk to planners as they are looking ahead, seeing the growth in the Queen City. This is Live Impact News at 10 o'clock on WCNC Plus, and here we go with that interview that ran this morning. You're watching Live Impact News.
You may have heard about the city's 2040 comprehensive plan. We've talked about it for years. Well, soon you have the chance to weigh in on how your specific community takes shape. We're talking about everything from housing developments, traffic, new businesses, all of it. Joining us live this morning here on WCNC Plus to talk more about it, Monica Holmes with the City of Charlotte. Monica, good to see you. Thanks for waking up with us.
Of course, good to see you too.
So we're talking about something called community area plans, and I feel like when people hear about this stuff, they kind of glaze over, right, not fully understanding their importance. But let's go over some of those community area plans. There's 14 of them across the city. I believe we have the map that we'll show at some point. Each one of these areas, whether it's the southern part of the town or the western part of the town, we're going to show the map right here. They each have their own needs and goals. So why is it?
That's correct.
Why is this important?
Well, so it's really important because everyone wants to know how their own neighborhood is going to grow, what type of development they're going to see, what type of transportation investments are going to happen. And this is the opportunity to really give a voice to that and help chart how that's going to happen. And I think people care about that. They especially care when something's happening nearby them.
And Monica, is there specific feedback that you're looking for, that you want to hear from the people about these areas?
Sure. We actually have a really robust website tool. It's at cltfuture2040.com, and it has a virtual open house where you can walk through all of the maps and the area plans and give your feedback and comments. We also have the opportunity to schedule time with staff so that they can give you more information. And we're looking for any type of feedback. So really, we want to know, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to see changed? And what's most important to you?
And how are you hoping that this process, how can it shape some of these neighborhoods, communities? If they're like, say, X in the year 2017, what are you hoping they're going to be like in, say, 2037?
That's a great question. So in each area plan, there's actually a community profile which outlines exactly what the needs are, what the goals are, and the number of growth that we see in that community and the number of jobs we see happening in that community. So people can really take a deep dive in and get into the weeds and understand what that looks like, and what, if it's right now it's 2025, what is that going to look like in 2040? How many jobs are we going to see come to the area? How many more people are going to move here? And what does that mean for me?
And we've been talking about the 2040 plan for quite some time now, so this may be obvious, but when will this all come to fruition? Is there like a deadline of 2040, or is there something else?
Sure. So it has a 2040 horizon year. That's what all the growth projections are. That's what those job projections are that I was just talking about. But this specific effort, we will be going to a public hearing in just a few weeks on May 12th, and then we'll be doing a public webinar on the 15th. So for people who want to give input into those 2040 projections, now's the time. So the next few weeks are really important.
Because, and we're all guilty of this, is we're going to complain about it in 3 or 4 years from now, and we're not going to like that one thing that's happening in our neighborhood, and we've lost our chance. So again, the meeting come up May 12th. What do people need to know? Where can they go for more information? Do they need to sign up? That sort of thing.
Yes, so the website I gave, cltfuture2040.com, has all of the different ways you can plug in. You can sign up, like I said, for virtual office hours to chat with staff. You can invite us to your neighborhood meeting. We'll be happy to come and share information. And you can just simply give your comments online. So that is the most important information, and it gives you all the resources and walks you through everything you need to know.
20-something-year-old Ben Thompson would have.
What would you have said?
Would have been glazed over by this entire conversation and thought, why would I care? 40-something-year-old Ben is like, this really matters, and that neighborhood meeting is going to be fire, and people are going to argue about it, and it's going to get people worked up. I mean, this stuff matters.
Because here's the thing, everybody has an opinion, right?
Yes.
They should do this. I'd like to see this or that. This is your chance to have your voice heard, to share your thoughts.
So important, so important. All right, Monica Holmes, thanks so much with the City of Charlotte. We appreciate you taking time and explaining all this to us because it is really important.
Thanks.
All right, an insightful interview there with leaders talking about the city's plan for 2040. Let's take you back out to Massachusetts, where Jennifer McCabe takes the witness stand in the Karen Reed retrial. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
At that point, did you mention anything about the defendant's broken taillight?
At that conversation, no.
Did they leave?
They did leave, yes.
At some point, did they reach out to you again, or did you reach out to them?
At some point, I had another conversation with them a few hours later. I'm not sure if they called me or if I called them.
Do you know what generally the content of that conversation was?
Yes, I had remembered that Karen had told me about her taillight.
As you're processing that morning, are you trying to think and recreate the event, or are you trying to put it out of your mind?
I couldn't get it out of my mind.
While you were at home, did you receive any updates from anybody, Kerry Roberts or anybody, about John?
Yes, when I was still at the Alberts, Kerry had given me word that, John had passed. Then once I got home, I know different friends who were starting to hear.
Without content, were you receiving contacts, calls, text
Yes.
messages from other people?
Yes.
And were you reaching back out to other people?
Some, yes.
At some point, did you go over to Meadows Road?
On Sunday, I did, yes.
Was Sunday the next day?
Yes, it was.
Why did you go over to Meadows?
Kerry and I went over with my daughter and her daughter to see the family and to offer support and our sympathy.
You said you and Kerry. How did you get there?
Kerry picked me up.
Prior to that evening, you and Kerry, you described, weren't friends or familiar?
Correct.
Were things changing?
Yes, rapidly.
When she picked you up, who else did she pick up with you?
My daughter, who is Kaylee's friend.
And was anybody else, were any of Miss Roberts' family in the car?
Yes, her daughter was in the car as well.
So it was you, Miss Roberts, and your two daughters?
Yes.
You said you went to Meadows.
Yes.
Why did you go there?
To offer our condolences, sympathy, support, to be with the family. I love them.
Were they staying at Meadows?
They were at Meadows, yes.
When you went there that next day, can you describe the traffic and the people that were there?
There was a house full of family, friends, coworkers, loved ones. The car repairman, like anyone and everyone.
Did you ever see the defendant?
No.
While you're at the house, did you have a chance to speak to Miss O'Keefe?
Yes, I did.
At some point that day, did you leave the house?
Yes.
Who did you leave with?
Kerry and my daughter stayed to be with Kaylee, and we left with her daughter.
Where did you go?
We were heading home, but then we ended up dropping off her daughter at her friend's house.
Now, who's her daughter? Don't give me a name. Kerry's daughter?
Kerry's daughter, yes.
And was Kerry's daughter friends with any of the Lanks?
Yes, Kerry's daughter's good friends with Mike Lank's daughter.
When Miss Roberts drove over to Mr. and Mrs. Lank's house, did you meet anybody?
Yes, her daughter, Kerry's daughter, went in the house, and Mrs. Lank came out. Her and Kerry are very good friends, so she came out to offer support and condolences.
Was it still cold outside?
Yes, it was freezing.
When she was offering her support, was she inside or outside of the car?
She jumped into the back seat.
During that time you spent with Officer Lank's wife, did you ever go into the house?
I have a faint memory. I think I went in and used the bathroom at one point.
Okay.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I want to get you quickly updated here. A new picture in your corner. You can see a bus crash there where police are investigating a school bus crash. Unclear if any students on the bus at this time, but or if anyone was injured or what caused the crash. But we are working to get more information. Take it back out to the key witness on the stand in the Karen Reed retrial.
Trish was just being a supportive friend to Kerry.
At some point, did you get together with Ms. Roberts and try to memorialize what you had saw or thought that morning?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Peg had asked Kerry to do a timeline, so Kerry came over and we were sitting down talking about it, and so my sister was there and she said that she would jot it down for us.
And so when you got together, it was at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe?
Yes.
When she made that request, did you ask you to do that? Did you question why?
No, she wanted us to do it, so I did it.
Why?
She wanted us to remember and try to jot down everything we remembered so we wouldn't forget.
So I'm going to sustain discretion. There is disregard.
Did you speak to officers further in the future?
Yes.
Can you count how many times you spoke with police or the interviews you had?
There were a lot, or a good amount, I should say.
At some point, did any of the police officers ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
Yes.
Did you have any hesitation about that?
Objection. Ask a different thing.
Were you cooperative?
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
May I approach?
Yes.
Hand you a piece of paper. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's my signature.
Do you know what that document is?
Yes, it's the consent form that I signed from my phone.
I can introduce this as an exhibit.
Okay. Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, we could deal with it at sidebar. I have no objection to the identification of it. Moving in as exhibit, I do have objection.
Okay, I'll see the telegraph.
All right, everyone. It looks like they're taking a little bit of a sidebar or a break there in Massachusetts on the Karen Reed retrial. Jennifer McCabe continues her testimony on day 7 of that retrial. I'll take you out to this bus crash. A quick update here in Milwaukee. Still no reason, no cause as to what happened for this bus to slam in through the gate, and unclear still if any students were on the bus at the time or if anyone was injured. So still following that developing news, the picture from our content partner in Milwaukee looks like that feed is frozen. In the meantime, this is a hearing we're going to take you out to live now. This is the confirmation hearing, Carlene, on
Rodney Scott.
On Rodney Scott?
Yes.
For Commerce, right?
Yeah, Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Oh, my bad. All right, let's take you there live now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
It's about Mr. Scott's involvement in the cover-up of the death of Mr. Hernandez Rojas. I asked Secretary Noem for a number of DHS documents that would get to the bottom of what happened and what Mr. Scott's involvement was. The Secretary responded with a letter that said Mr. Scott was basically a perfect angel and all the allegations against him are false, but produced 0 documents that I requested to back it up. In the first 100 days of this administration, it seems like this agency is practically allergic to the truth. I don't believe this committee should take this letter on faith, and I have some additional information from those who were there at the time, as opposed to Secretary Noem, who was not. So I hope that Secretary Noem will give the committee the documents we need to get to the bottom of the issue, but so far she has refused. Mr. Chairman, to go to my opening statement, the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection is like a point guard in basketball for everything the government does at the borders. They're responsible for more than 60,000 employees who carry out the screening and processing of millions of packages going in and out of our country every day, and for millions of people who cross the border in and out of our country each month. They have an essential responsibility to keep America safe and to keep the economy humming. An individual who holds the job should have deep experience with both customs and with protecting our borders, along with unimpeachable judgment. Today's hearing is to determine whether Rodney Scott possesses that experience along with the strength of character to be trusted with one of the most essential jobs in government. The evidence shows that he falls short. Just a quick review to begin of Mr. Scott's record. In 2010, he led the U.S. Border Patrol in San Diego. While in that position, a migrant who crossed the border was detained by CBP officers and severely beaten while in their custody. The man we've mentioned, Mr. Rojas, died of those injuries, leaving behind his wife and 5 children. Rather than following the agency's own policy and immediately referring the incident to outside investigators, the San Diego CBP office began its own inquiry. In the course of that investigation, the CBP officers taped over the only video copy of Mr. Rojas' death and tampered with physical evidence, according to court documents. In an action that the former head of CBP Internal Affairs called illegal and possibly obstruction of justice, Mr. Scott signed a subpoena to obtain Mr. Rojas' medical records, which Customs and Border Patrol then refused to release to the San Diego Police Department. Last night, Mr. Chairman, a former senior CBP Internal Affairs official, Mr. James Wong, who was present at the time of these events, which I think is crucial to determining what really went on, wrote me with his grave concerns about Mr. Scott's nomination. The investigation Mr. Scott oversaw, according to this high-ranking CBP Internal Affairs official, quote, was not an investigation, it was a cover-up, one Mr. Scott supervised. This abuse of power disqualifies him from leading one of the largest law enforcement agencies in the country. I would ask, Mr. Chairman, that this letter from Mr. Wong, this high-level CBP official who was present at these events, be entered into the record at this point.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman and colleagues, I guess the question then becomes, did Mr. Scott learn from his mistakes? It doesn't appear so. In 2021, a woman who formerly served as a Border Patrol agent tweeted criticism at Mr. Scott about his handling of the Rojas investigation. The former agent was an outspoken advocate for reforming the Border Patrol practices as a survivor of sexual assault while in the patrol's academy. Here's how Mr. Scott responded on his public Twitter account to criticism from a woman who survived sexual assault. And I quote, I investigated all your allegations. Not a crumb of evidence could be found to support any of them. But I did find out a lot about you. Lean back, close your eyes, and just enjoy the show, unquote. The judge called the tweet, and I quote, a classic rape threat, but found that it fell short of constituting an imminent threat of violence. So the question becomes, is the Senate Finance Committee going to accept the CBP commissioner who casually has threatened a woman in this way? Our standards of character could not have fallen so low that they can be dismissed as old news. Finally, in the summer of 2020, the Trump administration deployed a staggering number of federal law enforcement personnel to my hometown of Portland, Oregon, in response to overwhelmingly peaceful First Amendment activity. Unidentifiable federal law enforcement whisked away Oregonians in unmarked vehicles, shot people in the head, indiscriminately unleashed all sorts of chemical weapons and contaminants, and injured many. The violent federal response involved 337 Border Patrol agents, with Mr. Scott in the chain of command. As Chief of the Border Patrol, Mr. Scott provided both administrative and operational support for the deployment. So the question then becomes, Does what happened in Portland or San Diego in 2010 matter now? Americans need to know the head of a major law enforcement agency won't sign off on bogus searches, harass female employees or travelers, or allow the agency to target people.
Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal here, 10:19 Wednesday morning, and you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. Breaking news, want to bring you right now, getting word now that the U.S. economy has taken a decline, 0.3%. That is the news just coming out from Washington. But we do have some news as well, as the big board is showing that the market's opening up in the negative as well, waiting on those tariffs to kick in. And we have a Truth Social post, rather, from President Trump saying that, I'm going to read this right off of his post that was posted about an hour ago. This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in, and companies are starting to move into the USA in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we have to get rid of the Biden quote, overhang. This will take a while, has nothing to do with tariffs, only that he left us with bad numbers. But when the boom begins, it will be like no other. Be patient is his theme here this morning. And so with that, even with some of his tariffs on pause for 90 days, recession fears are being heightened. Many worry that a different kind of threat is looming. We're talking stagflation. Local financial professional Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth joining us now to explain what stagflation is and what you can do to protect yourself in this uncertain economy. Mark, always nice to have you here in the Live Impact studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So what a timely visit, because we were going to have you come in anyway. But what is stagflation then?
Yeah, so this one, we don't see it very often, but think about it this way. There's like 3 spinning plates. And so in its infancy, what stagflation is when you have little or no GDP growth. Guess what? We just went down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So there's number one. That's that first spinning plate that we're trying to balance. Then we end up with high unemployment. Well, we don't necessarily have that yet. However, we could be heading that way because tariffs and higher costs could make people start laying off. That could happen. So that's the scary part. So there's that plate spinning. And then you have the third one, inflation. So right now, inflation has trickled down a little bit. However, if it goes higher, then that's the trifecta. So in its nutshell, stagflation would be a slowing or decreasing GDP with little or no growth, high unemployment, and high inflation, the triple whammy. And it's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. So how did we get here? How does stagflation happen?
You know, it's a tough one to control. We could blame it on different things if we chose to. Maybe the tariffs are doing this or this is doing that. But at the end of the day, the issue with stagflation is how hard it is to control if it arrives. Because think about this, the tools you would use to help fix one part of the problem hurts the other plate. So you have these 3 spinning plates. So think about it this way. If you had high unemployment, okay, so unemployment's bad, maybe we would lower interest rates, and lower interest rates can cause companies to be able to borrow more at a cheaper rate, which will allow them to expand. Well, that's really good because now unemployment goes down. However, lowering interest rates makes inflation go up. So wait, that's not good. We can't do that one. So this is why it gets so balancing. Which one do you attack first and to try to solve stagflation? And that's where it gets really tricky.
So, okay, yeah, it's so tricky. I mean, a lot to break down here. What are the warning signs of stagflation?
Well, we've got one going on right now, the GDP slowing down.
Right.
That could be a potential warning sign. And then what about if we do start seeing more layoffs? Well, that would be a warning sign. Or if we see inflation start to trickle up. Well, think about it. Inflation could very well start to trickle up. It's come down. Gas prices are lower. Some things are good. But the tariffs can cause prices to go up, etc. And that slows down the spending because things cost more. It slows down the manufacturing because bringing the goods in to produce something might cost more. Less demand, layoffs. So it's like the trifecta. And will this happen? Well, nobody knows. One of the best examples of this happening was in the 70s when you had the out-of-control gas prices, high unemployment. Remember the gas lines at the pumps and all that? That was a classic example of stagflation, and we certainly don't want to see that again.
Are we in stagflation now?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But we are certainly considering it and looking at it. It has to be looked at, especially with today's news of the GDP slowing, and not even slowing, going down.
Right, right. So what can we do then in the position we are with our own finances? How do we protect ourselves?
This is where it really comes in, because the reality is we can worry about all this stuff. I don't think we were created to worry about all this stuff. We need to worry about the impact to us. So what should we do? As we always like to say, if there's an opportunity or a way that you can become a better employee to the company you currently work at, I would absolutely suggest you do it. Ask for extra work, because if there's going to be layoffs, you don't want to be the one being laid off. So be the star employee. Set yourself up with an emergency fund. Let's get rid of the credit card debt. Even if interest rates fall a little bit, which I really think the Fed's behind on, I think they should come down some. I know it could cause inflation to go up a little bit, I get it, but I would bring interest rates down. But even with them coming down, high interest credit card debt is not coming down. You want to get out of that stuff.
Right.
Think about and consider, if you're having trouble making the end of the month budget, making it work, the money coming in, the money going out, they're kind of not equaling out, consider other employment. Think about some of these gig jobs. They're not permanent jobs, the deliveries, the Ubers, all the different things to create more money coming in, to put yourself in a better position if in fact it does get harder for a while.
All right. Are you still optimistic?
I really am. This is a very tricky situation. But as we talked about once before about tariffs and stuff, it's going to get messy before it gets way better. We just hope it doesn't get so messy that we actually enter into stagflation, see high unemployment, see high inflation come back. We don't want that. No one does.
Yeah.
Could it happen? Yeah, it could, but a lot of things could happen. We don't worry about what may or may not happen. Take care of yourself, put yourself in a position that allows you to win no matter what markets and economy and other things do. And you do that by paying down your debt, having an emergency fund, and making sure you're a star employee at whatever company you work at.
Out of those three things, you know, what we can do now, what would you say if someone needs to get started, they're panic, they're overwhelmed, and they want to be proactive but don't know where to go?
Create extra money in your emergency fund. Do it right now. How do you do that? Go have a yard sale. Go get extra money. Go ask for extra hours at work. Go ahead and be the person. Your friends aren't doing this, and you be the oddball that is. Start developing an emergency fund first. Always do that before you pay down the credit cards, because it's been my experience, you get the credit card paid off, you have no emergency fund, the refrigerator breaks, now you're back to using the credit cards. Right. So have the emergency fund first, and then tackle that debt and do it as creatively as you can. There is places to work. You can find the extra money. Don't believe the ones that say you can't, you can't, you can't. They're right. They can't. You can.
All right. How many months worth of salary or
at least
expenses?
3. I personally want to have 6, but at least 3.
All right. Well, Mark Henry, good advice as always. Thank you for your insight. Carlene, we're going to have a garage sale or something. We're going to create that extra money soon. Mark and Henry from Alloy Wealth, appreciate your visit.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, anytime. Thank you. You are watching Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. Great conversation there on stagflation. After hearing word now that the U.S. economy has taken a major hit, 0.3%. On the GDP. Let's take it back out to Massachusetts, where that Karen Reed retrial continues, and Jennifer McCabe continues her testimony on the stand.
Questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either on direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind? You said you had at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting, by the way, ish?
The first meeting, I think, was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at? Other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you an estimate. I think the first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Did Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about your about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes? Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally, Mr. Brennan, any of the troopers?
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you, and nobody scribed any notes that you saw?
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your family because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at, 34 Fairview, that you arrived at where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family?
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly,
okay.
Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And the Canton, that's in Canton? I said Select Board member. Did I mention Canton Select Board member?
It is in Canton,
okay.
yes.
All right, obviously it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department reports to the Select Board, correct?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay. You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not 100%.
which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have 3 sisters. Nicole, we've talked about. You also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Yes.
Nicole is also known by a nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the shortened
Shelley
name from
is.
Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah, like Deedee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close to Canton.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. His name is Tom Weeks?
Yes.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we've just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family, celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing?
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole?
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family?
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th?
Yes.
Special events?
Yes.
Spend weekends together?
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together?
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabes, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
On January 28th, 2022, members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. Waterfall, we've heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, you went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
You've been interviewed, I think you indicated multiple times, you didn't even give a number of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case, is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We've just talked about that. Brian Albert, is that right?
Well, Brian was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there is some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family, is that right?
Objection.
On Live Impact News, you are watching the key witness, Jennifer McCabe, on the stand there in the Karen Reed retrial in Massachusetts. Top right, waiting on House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. He has a briefing scheduled on the first 100 days of President Trump's second term. And bottom right, the continuing committee hearing from the Senate Finance Committee to examine the nomination of Rodney Scott to be Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Yes. Who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay. And Canton Police Department. There's also some connections there as well, Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department?
Not with the department, but with Kevin Albert.
Right, who's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with Massachusetts State, with Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes. Can I
and
stop
Officer
you for a
Good.
second and see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sure.
Little sidebar there at the trial for Karen Reed. We will go right now to the full Senate hearing, confirmation hearing from the Senate Finance Committee on Rodney Scott.
Politics are politics, but I want everybody to know, if you look at my track record, the one thing you'll see consistently is transparency. In every one of these cases, what you see is what you get. Everybody makes mistakes. I believe the ones I've made were very minor. We learn from them and move forward. I don't know how to speculate on why they would try to smear the background.
What I didn't do is bring the chart that we've been using now for years, showing how President Trump pretty well secured the border, and then, through their want and desire, they totally opened up, let millions flood in this country completely unvetted. I'm thinking that maybe they don't really want to talk about that and discuss how now President Trump has successfully secured the border. They'd rather try and smear you and totally distract the American public. That would be my, what I would surmise. But again, I appreciate your past service, and I know you'll do an excellent job as commissioner. One question I have is, being a fiscal conservative, I was fully supportive of providing the administration the resources they need to not only secure the border, but deport, the however many millions of people that should be deported. Okay, and that's going to take resources. The swiftness with which this administration has secured the border, again, I don't want to just throw money at the problem. I want to make sure that we account for every dollar that we do spend. So that's my main question. Because no matter whenever we're talking about some kind of border security or some immigration bill, we're going to be throwing a lot of money at it. And the question I always ask, well, once we actually achieve it, we're not going to need all those detention beds. We're not going to need to spend all that money. We're not going to need all those additional border patrol because we've solved the problem. The problem with government is once you start spending, you continue to maintain those spending levels. So can you just address how you're going to look at those budgets? What kind of information you're going to provide to us? Because I'm hoping you'll be confirmed before we actually pass, whether it's a big, beautiful bill or do it in segments the way my preference would be. Will we have the detail in terms of exactly what CBP needs to do its job, which is going to be somewhat separate what we're going to need for ICE and the deportation efforts as well?
So if confirmed, I will do everything in my power to make sure that you get that information. One of the things I highlighted as chief, and I will do again if confirmed as commissioner, is ask a lot of questions and mandate that any proposal or even any daily work that's going on can be directly tied back to the border security mission, and not with some gray dotted line, a pretty good solid line. One of the examples within Border Patrol that we got out of that by looking at it was the border wall system, for example. When we tested that and proved it out in San Diego sector, we were able to show that it freed up 150 agents every 24 hours that could then be shifted to other areas that were more remote. That was a $28 million return on investment for the life cycle of that border wall. And it's examples like that I will push and drive as requirements for asks for CBP. Similarly, at the port of entry, that non-intrusive equipment can show how we save man hours. But the most important thing you mentioned already is reducing the flow of illegal activities so we can focus on those bigger threats with the resources we have.
But do you agree with me, and again, I'm absolutely amazed at how quickly the border has basically become secure. A secure border will actually reduce the amount of money we need to spend, correct? I mean, a secure border will save us money. It's not going to require additional funds.
I believe
to a point.
I believe a secure border will save all of America a ton of money and a ton of lives.
Okay. Again, look forward to working with you. And again, I apologize for the smear campaign.
All right. Thank you, Senator Johnson. And we do not have any other senators here to ask questions. And so Senator Wyden and I will make some wrap-up statements, and then we will conclude the hearing. I just want to thank you again, Mr. Scott, for appearing before us today. Whenever someone steps forward to accept a position of responsibility and serve in the public. These days, it's intense, and there are battles. I appreciate you being willing to step up. And I also want to say thank you to all of the incredible people at the Border Patrol for the service that they do, and you for the service that you have given that has made you so qualified for this job. I look forward to us moving as quickly as we can to move your nomination forward and see you continue to help build a strong America. And thank you for that very much.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Wyden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague apologized for using the word smear. That doesn't dismiss the fact that on these key facts, we still are basically in the dark. Let me go through the big ones. We didn't get the documents that we need from Secretary Noem. We didn't hear any response to the internal affairs high-ranking official who at the time said the investigation was a cover-up. We still don't have any information with respect to whether the subpoena was handled by the nominee in a legal and appropriate way. So I want it understood that we'll have to see how the chairman wants to move forward. My door remains open to seeing the facts, the documents on the key kind of questions, because on those at least 3 major areas that I've described, we are basically in the dark, and we can't do our responsibilities. We can't carry out our responsibilities to do oversight when that's the case. And we'll go forward hoping that we will get the relevant documents we've requested that speak to the issues I've raised this morning, and we can assess them that way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wyden. And again, Mr. Scott, thank you for your service and your willingness to step back in and engage in service to the country. I remind my colleagues that the deadline for submitting any questions for the record is 5 p.m. on Monday, May 5th. Nope, we have a senator who has some questions. Senator Lujan, as soon as you get your seat.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I apologize for my late arrival. We were in a markup in another hearing, but thank you for the indulgence this morning. Mr. Scott, good morning and welcome to the hearing. Appreciate you taking time to visit with me in the office. Mr. Scott, when we met, we had a lengthy discussion on inspection technology and other technology improvements that could benefit CBP's ability to interdict drugs. Yes or no, are the vast majority of drug seizures, including fentanyl, made at legal ports of entry?
Currently, hard narcotics are primarily seized at ports of entry.
90% or so?
The actual seizures, not the total flow, but the known seizures.
Are made at ports of entry?
Correct.
And is it true that an overwhelming number of those are actually made in passenger vehicles being driven by American citizens?
I believe that's correct.
Yes or no, is CBP's inability to screen incoming, and I would contend outgoing cargo, put CBP officers and American communities at risk?
Screening the volume of traffic coming across the border to include the seaports, the rail, it is challenging. And then that is exactly why we're trying to make more investments in the NII, the non-intrusive inspection equipment, as well as the AI behind it, basically using technology to make those officers more and more effective. Because at the end of the day, I think it's really important to highlight a lot of that technology, it just detects anomalies. It takes an actual officer or an agent to determine if there's actually something illegal there or not. So making sure that we use human beings, you use those officers and agents in the most effective manner possible is critical. And I think investments in the technology aspect of it is going to make them more effective. It's going to make America safer.
Appreciate that. Yes or no, do you believe inspection technology can help CBP officers do their jobs more safely and effectively?
Yes, sir.
And yes or no, do you believe implementing a strategy to achieve 100% screening, even if it requires rebuilding port infrastructure or leads to increased wait times, would make our country more secure?
I can't answer that yes or no. In theory, yes, it would, but there's always trade-offs about the amount of money invested and the amount of time and the risk. So in the short term, CBP, I believe, does have a strategy to significantly enhance the number of vehicles that are actually being screened with NII. In a perfect world, we would love to get to 100%, but there's going to have to be a lot of conversations with Congress on how to fund that, because it will, as you know, we talked about, it will require revamping the actual footprint of ports of entry where they're right on the border, and we just don't have the ability to inspect before they get to the primary inspection location.
I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, this is one of those areas where I hope that we don't just talk about this, but this is something that we could probably do. It changes the way that we need to approach this, but if we truly want to know what's entering the United States, there's no reason that we could not advance that 100% screening and things of that nature. I know I've chatted with several of my colleagues about this in the past, and my constituents, they don't understand why we're not deploying more technology to work with the agents to be able to figure this one out. And so I appreciate that response. Now, do you believe that CBP should partner with our national laboratories to develop and deploy the next generation of these tools that can identify the molecular or chemical makeup of fentanyl and other narcotics?
Thank you for that question. As I mentioned in my opening, border security is a team sport. So yes, the labs, private industry, the Department of Defense, anybody that's actually looking at these, I think can be a partner to help us get more and more effective and utilize our personnel more effectively.
And Mr. Chairman, this is one of the areas where I've suggested for years that the Science and Tech Directorate in the DHS space, the Department of Energy is working with many agencies with work that they do all around the world. There's no reason that more of that could not be commercialized or used in a space where there's a domestic approach to it as well. And it would actually, I think, create some savings in the United States and allow us to have more advanced technology that could be deployed. Now, Mr. Scott, 2021, the Borderplex region was the manufacturing hub with the 5th highest employment in North America, accounting for 17% of all trade with Mexico. The Santa Teresa Port of Entry in New Mexico ranked number 6 in imports and number 7 in exports among land ports for merchandise trade along the United States-Mexico border in 22. For livestock trade, Santa Teresa continues to represent the largest port along the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, given these clear indicators of Santa Teresa's rising strategic and economic importance, my question is, why has CBP not prioritized the Santa Teresa Port of Entry for infrastructure improvements?
So currently, as a policy advisor, I don't have that level of detail, but if confirmed, as we discussed before, I'll commit to reevaluating the entire priority for infrastructure improvements and looking at it, because especially on the southwest border, in all the environments, the trade and travel has shifted and expanded dramatically in certain areas, and I know we have not kept up. So I commit to looking into that more if confirmed.
I appreciate that, sir. And Mr. Chairman, if Governor Abbott's going to continue to close ports of entry going into Texas, they go to New Mexico. So maybe we can find a nice way to be able to get this done and push New Mexico up that 5-year CIP plan. Thank you for the time. Appreciate your responses.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. And you're right, you have been talking about this for years. You're very focused and dedicated on it, to it, and I think you're onto something. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here before us today. We appreciate it. And my colleague from New Mexico is right in talking about the molecular resonance and being able to utilize technologies for detection. And he and I have done a lot of work on the labs and the research work that they do, Oak Ridge in my state of Tennessee, and of course Los Alamos in New Mexico. I want to go to some of the detection and testing at the southern border also. It was baffling to me that the Biden administration stopped doing DNA testing on children that were traveling with an adult that was not related to them. Now, when that testing was done, what we realized, about 30% of all those children were being trafficked, and we were able to extract them from those situations. And the DNA testing has really proven to be a successful tool, and it is not a time-consuming tool. The entire test can process in about 45 minutes. And my question to you is, will you push to make certain that at our ports of entry, when children are traveling with adults not related to them, that they are being DNA tested? And likewise, along that same vein, we had situations where children were being recycled, and they were coming in with cartel members and were being brought across the border and then sent back over the border time and again. And some of our Border Patrol would tell us they had seen children as many as 8 or 10 times. And this is a horrific practice. So we have the Prince Act that would give CBP the authority to fingerprint immigrants under the age of 14 to combat and to ultimately prevent this human trafficking. So we have those two items, the fingerprints and the DNA testing, that could and should be used. Will you commit to using these to help protect children that are being trafficked?
Senator, thank you for that question. The short answer is yes. When I was chief of the Border Patrol, we were pushing out that rapid DNA testing. I was I don't even have the right word for it. I was really shocked when the Biden administration shut that off.
Yeah.
Because it was such a good tool and there was really no justifiable reason to turn it off. Yes, I will do everything I can to get those tools back in place because there's no more vulnerable population than the children being brought across that border and being trafficked.
Great. Memphis is the logistics hub of our country. Of course, we have all the Class 1 railroads that are there. We have the Port of Memphis. We have FedEx. And so as we work on this, we know that we're addressing threats. The FBI recently put out a memo pertaining to Chinese Communist Party and their influence along the Mississippi River and about the dangers of counterfeit goods that are coming into the country. And we know that CBP has an important role to play as we look at this supply chain. Cargo theft is an issue. Securing these shipments is an issue. So can you speak for a moment about the importance of these inland hubs and the shipping logistics and what is taking place in our logistics hubs like the city of Memphis and how that affects our supply chain?
Yes, thank you again for that question as well. The trade and travel piece of CBP is critical, but the security starts well before it gets to the United States through programs like CTPAT, where we work with trade partners, we build security mechanisms in place. But at the end of the day, it doesn't stop there. It actually goes into the U.S. to the hub centers, as you talked about as well, anywhere that's going on. It's also very important for our revenue generation to make sure we know what commodities are actually being imported, and if it matches what they said on the bill of lading, what nation it came from, so that it wasn't shipped through another nation to get out of the revenue as well, the taxes as well. It's all critical. I commit to you that I will focus on that just as much as I will focus on the land border itself.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
On behalf of Senator Cortez Masto, I'd like to enter into the record at this point a letter that she has sent to the heads of the major federal departments about President Trump's impact on trade and tourism.
Without objection. And Senator Lankford, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Scott, thanks. Thanks not only for being here today and going through this process, thanks for decades of serving our country and what you've done in federal law enforcement, and to be able to work to be able to make our country more secure. And so I just want you to know from the people of Oklahoma, we're proud of you and we're grateful for the work that you've continued to be able to do on that. I want to run through just a bunch of questions to be able to try to get a few things out there. One of them is, I had great frustration at the end of the Biden administration. They pulled from the polygraph examination for future folks that are serving at the border, the drug use question. That's been there for a long time, multiple administrations. is an issue to say if you're a current drug user or past drug user on that, at least to be able to get that out on the polygraph. They just didn't want to know, and so they just pulled that off entirely. My question to you is, are you aware of all that? And if so, what can you do about it or have done about that? What can be done to be able to make sure that when we do those polygraph screenings, we're getting information that we need to be able to get?
So thank you for that question, and also thank you for raising that to my attention. I was not aware of that before we discussed it in your office. Since then, I have looked into it.